Hitchcock, the legendary director who made her a star and then ruined her career because she refused to sleep with him.
35 most evil actors in Hollywood history. Hollywood's biggest stars aren't always what they seem. Behind the glitz and glamour lies a world of deceit, crime, and controversy. Which of your favorite actors made the list of the most evil? Stick around to find out. Number 35, William Shatner. Did you know that the beloved Captain Kirk wasn't so beloved off-screen? Over the years, several of William Shatner's former castmates have come clean about the Star Trek star's allegedly difficult attitude. He's reportedly upset plenty of co-stars and even caused some feuds along the way. Shatner and fellow Trek vet Leonard Nimoy clashed over scripts and fan mail, with Shatner said to be excessively sensitive to stories that favored Nimoy. Later in life, the pair patched up their differences, but that belated reconciliation may be a rare exception. Reportedly, Shatner and Nichelle Nichols, with whom he shared a famous on-screen kiss, didn't get along well at all, and she nearly left the show until Dr. Martin Luther King convinced Nichols of the importance of her role. Shatner later made waves when he refused to appear on stage with James Doohan at a convention in 2004. Doohan's farewell appearance following his Alzheimer's diagnosis. There's also the long-running feud between George Takei and Shatner, who have been odds, often publicly, for several decades.
I must ask you about something you wrote in the book, which was that you made Rush Limbaugh cry and Jon Voight cry.
Yes.
Why? How did you do that?
Why
were they crying?
Because I touched their soul.
Number 34, Dustin Hoffman. What if one of Hollywood's most acclaimed actors turned out to be a nightmare on set? Dustin Hoffman has given some of the best and most influential performances of all time. His roles in films like The Graduate and Midnight Cowboy were instrumental in ushering in the new Hollywood movement, completely changing the film industry of the late 1960s and 1970s. One of his most acclaimed films was Kramer vs. Kramer. Hoffman was engaging in hardcore method acting for the role and took it upon himself to force what he considered to be a stronger performance out of co-star Meryl Streep. Hoffman slapped Streep, smashed a real glass against the wall right beside her head without warning, and made low-blow insults about Streep's recently deceased boyfriend, actor John Cazale. Far worse than any of this nasty on-set behavior, however, are the numerous sexual assault allegations that have been made against Hoffman, as reported in Forbes. His accusers came in contact with Hoffman through film shoots and his theatrical performances on Broadway, making working with him in any capacity an unpleasant proposition.
Two of cinema's most lauded actors united in the unforgettable 1979 film Kramer vs. Kramer.
I am still his mother.
Yes, from 3,000 miles away.
In the restaurant scene, Hoffman improvised the moment where he would throw his wine glass against the wall, telling only the camera operator beforehand. Meryl Streep's shock is completely real. She later admitted to yelling at her co-star after the shot for scaring her so much.
Number 33, Johnny Carson. Did the king of late-night TV have a dark side? Carson spent 3 decades as the host of The Tonight Show before handing it off to Jay Leno. While Carson came off as the perfect gentleman on screen, he was known to have an unpredictable temper. He would fly off the handle at the most random of times, reacting to minor inconveniences with a tirade of blue language while taking more serious issues on the chin. His feelings were notoriously easy to hurt, something which Joan Rivers recalled in 2009. Calling Carson a bastard, Rivers explained that she had a great relationship with the man for much of her early career, but he cut off all contact with her after she secured her own television deal. Seeing Rivers as a rival, the ultra-competitive Carson did everything in his power to destroy her show. Carson's rocky relationships with women were not just reserved for his professional life. The late-night king married multiple women during his time at the top, with the majority of his marriages failing thanks to his emotional abuse and multiple extramarital affairs.
Can I ask you something without getting too intimate? How do you know after, we'd gone out a couple of times, right?
Number 32, John Holmes. How did a famous porn star end up at the scene of a brutal murder? John Holmes is a notorious figure in the adult film industry. On July 1st, 1981, in Los Angeles, Holmes was present during the incident where 4 people were murdered. The police found his left palm print at the crime scene and took him for questioning. He was later released for the lack of evidence to support his involvement in the murders. He was later arrested again and was charged with personally committing all the murders, but after a 3-week trial, Holmes was acquitted of all charges except committing contempt of court. It still remains unknown whether he actually participated in the killings, which were drug-related, or if he was just present.
The afternoon of July the 1st, 1981, made even the most hardened detectives shudder.
It looked as if someone had walked through the house with buckets of blood and just threw the buckets of blood everywhere, and that's pretty close. There's a lot of blood.
Inside a scene of stark terror. 4 bodies, 2 women and 2 men, brutally beaten, their heads bashed in. A 5th victim found in a pool of blood barely survived, but couldn't remember, much less describe what she'd seen. One thing was certain. This orgy of violence was not the handiwork of a single man. The detectives knew that, but they didn't know it was a case that would eventually touch the lives of Liberace's lover, an adult film star, John Holmes.
Number 31, Paul Kelly. What happens when a Hollywood heartthrob becomes a convicted killer? Paul Kelly alternated between stage and screen as an actor. He was a handsome and popular male lead or co-star in Broadway plays from the late 1910s and throughout the 1920s. On April 16, 1927, a drunk Kelly confronted fellow actor Ray Raymond over his affair with and love for Raymond's wife, actress Dorothy McKay. Raymond, who was also drunk, was no match for Kelly, who was considerably larger than him. During the confrontation, Kelly hit him several times and left him on the floor. Kelly was sentenced to up to 10 years, but served only 25 months in San Quentin prison. Conditions of his release included that he must not marry for 18 months after his release, and that he would have to take a job as a clerk for $30 a week. Number 30, Alfred Hitchcock. Did the master of suspense terrorize his leading ladies off screen? Tippi Hedren, who worked with Alfred Hitchcock on multiple films, recounted how Hitchcock tried to kiss her and made inappropriate remarks on the set of Marnie. When she refused his sexual advances, he allegedly promised to ruin her career. He then kept her under contract so she couldn't work with another studio and refused to offer her large projects.
Hitchcock, the legendary director who made her a star and then ruined her career because she refused to sleep with him.
It is the worst thing to be the object of someone's obsession if you're not interested.
How serious was it? Did Alfred Hitchcock try to have sex with you?
Well, he never got that far.
Number 29, Bill Cosby. How did America's favorite TV dad become one of its most reviled predators? Bill Cosby may have completely fallen from grace by this point, but for years, he was one of America's beloved TV dads. Cosby has been accused of sexual assault by more than 60 women, with some of their stories dating all the way back to the 1970s. Justice may not be perfect, but it seems like he's finally getting a little bit of what he deserved, even if he deserves much worse. In 2018, he was convicted of 3 counts and sentenced to up to 10 years in prison. That's a start, we guess.
He's guilty, and the comic legend, once known as America's dad, now faces up to 30 years in prison.
Number 28, the Kid Creole. What led a rap pioneer to a life sentence for manslaughter? The Kid Creole is an actor known for White Boy Rick 2018 and Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5 music videos. On August 2nd, 2017, the Kid Creole was arrested and charged with the murder of a New York City homeless man. He had been arrested for firearm possession in 1982 and 1995 and possession of a knife in 2007. He was found guilty of first-degree manslaughter on April 6, 2022. On May 4th, he was sentenced to 16 years in prison plus 5 years of supervision.
Glover is charged in the death of a 55-year-old John Jolly who was stabbed 3 times late Tuesday night near 44th Street and 3rd Avenue in Manhattan. Sources tell us surveillance video helped police identify Glover as the suspect.
Number 27, Mickey Rooney. How did a child star's memoir reveal a dark side to this Hollywood career? On screen, Mickey Rooney seemed like a perfectly nice guy. In his younger years, he came off as a kid who was just trying to make his way in the world and was extremely humble, despite his immense talent. However, it seems as though Rooney's nice guy image was just another example of his impeccable acting ability. In his final years, Rooney released his autobiography, Life is Too Short, which was met with great excitement by those who couldn't wait to read about the many twists and turns of his career. But instead of an account of his various rises and falls, Rooney spent much of the book describing, and probably exaggerating, his many sexual exploits and acts of what we would now consider slut-shaming. The actor also shared personal details about the lives of other Hollywood stars, even contributing to the rumors of one actress, who we will not name, hiding a lesbian double life from the press and her family.
Her at the Pantages Theater, and she says, "Oh, thanks, Mickey. She was my sister from the beginning, the sister I never had. I'm an only child, Robert. But she was the love I'd searched for."
Gosh, it's a great comfort to have somebody you can tell your troubles to.
Number 26, Bill O'Reilly. How did a prominent
who's he
TV
mad
host
at?
career
His
end
colleague
in
at
scandal?
Fox News,
Bill
Megyn
O'Reilly
Kelly.
sexually harassed
In
his
Megyn's
secretary
new
for a
book, which is
long
out
time.
today, she writes
He
about
would
being
call her and masturbate over the phone. She eventually sued, and Bill paid a lot of money to make the bad press go away. This was right around the time Bill was writing books telling people how to live their lives. William James O'Reilly Jr. is an American conservative commentator, journalist, author, and television host. O'Reilly's broadcasting career began during the late 1970s and 1980s, when he reported for local television stations in the United States and later for CBS News and ABC News.
Megyn Kelly. In Megyn's new book, which is out today, she writes about being sexually harassed by disgraced Fox News honcho Roger Ailes.
He said he knew I must have some very sexy bras, and he'd like to see me in them.
Number 25, Tommy Lee Jones. What's it like to interview Hollywood's grumpiest star? Tommy Lee Jones doesn't just act like a grumpy guy. He is a grump. In fact, it's rare to find him signing an autograph or talking to journalists. While that's all fine and good, most journalists don't want to have a second movie promoting interview with him because he's known for cutting them off and walking out. In fact, he made a reporter cry one time during an interview with GQ magazine while literally cracking whole walnuts with his bare hands.
Can I take a picture of you, please?
No, I can't do that. I gotta go home.
Quickly, please. God bless you. My camera here.
Be careful with your arm,
Okay, thank you.
Number 24, Zaja Gabor. How did Zaja Gabor's daughter end up penniless? Gabor had a reputation of being rather unpleasant to be around. Her advanced age simply meant she had more time than most of the people on this list to execute her misdeeds. Gabor's greatest sin was her shabby treatment of her daughter, Francesca Hilton, who she was almost ashamed to acknowledge. Although Zaja proudly displayed her daughter on red carpets and at social gatherings when she was still a cute little girl, the actress began to lose interest in her child when the young Gabor expressed no interest in wearing makeup. When Francesca's father, billionaire hotel magnate Conrad Hilton, passed away, he left his daughter only $100,000, for which she fought relentlessly in court. Not only did Francesca lose her case, she depleted her entire fortune in the process. With her mother offering only minimal financial aid, Francesca lived the rest of her days penniless, spending her final hours begging in Beverly Hills.
And all the while, Zaja Gabor's family is fighting. You may have heard her husband recently put their Bel Air mansion up for sale, and her daughter says real estate isn't the only thing he controls.
Number 23, Stanley Fafara. What happened to the child star of Leave It to Beaver after the show ended? In 1957, 7-year-old Stanley Fafara's mother took him to an open casting call for a new television series about a suburban family entitled Leave It to Beaver. He earned the part of Whitney, one of the lead character's best buddies. The show quickly became a hit, giving the young actor a dazzling taste of Hollywood fame and money, which he would never forget. He discovered hard drugs in the mid-1960s, an unfortunate obsession that would dog him for many years to come. He supported himself by dealing narcotics. In the 1980s, he was arrested for breaking into pharmacies 7 times. Fafara was sentenced to a year in jail after being arrested and convicted for an 8th burglary. After his release from jail, Fafara tried several jobs, but eventually returned to dealing drugs.
Why didn't you say it in class?
Because of that goofy Penny. She put a hex on me with her creepy face. How can a guy remember presidents when he's looking at a zombie?
Number 22. George Reeves. What led to the mysterious death of the original Superman? Compared to Hollywood's worst offenders, original Superman George Reeves was not the worst of the bunch. Beautiful, older women who knew what they wanted were Reeves' weakness. In 1951, he made the morally dubious decision to involve himself with Toni Mannix, the wife of MGM producer and famed Hollywood fixer, Annie Mannix. Eddie was okay with this since he had his own mistress and kept their affair private for the benefit of all parties involved. Reeves had a squeaky clean image to maintain, and his behavior risked his career. Although Reeves was generally faithful when he was committed, once he strayed, he strayed. While he was still involved with Toni, he started sleeping with the much younger Leonore Lemmon. Having allowed his lust to place him between 2 jealous and protective women, Reeves opted to marry Lemmon and break up with Toni. Probably the best way to avoid worsening an already bad situation. But he didn't get to enjoy the wedding, as he was found dead in his bed, naked, and shot in the temple, execution style.
But George Reeves, the living, breathing embodiment of that cartoon hero Superman, was merely mortal. Especially on the night of June 16, 1959, when he was found with his brains blown away by a shot from his own pistol.
Number 21. Danny Trejo. How did a hardened criminal become a beloved actor? Actor Danny Trejo participated in his first drug deal when he was just 7 years old. At age 10, he was arrested for the first time and served his sentence at East Lake Juvenile Hall in 1956. Years later, in 1962, he was imprisoned for drug dealing and robbery. All in all, he spent 11 years behind bars.
Gilbert used to commit robberies to fulfill his habit of heroin, and shortly after included Danny in his robberies. When Danny was 18, he got into some real trouble. A disagreement at a drive-in movie theater led him to stab a man with a broken alcohol bottle. And this time, he went to jail.
Number 20. Don King. How did a boxing promoter end up with blood on his hands? Boxing promoter Don King killed 2 men in separate incidents. King killed the first man in self-defense when the man was trying to break into his gambling operation. King was convicted of second-degree murder for the second incident, in which he stomped to death an employee who owed him $600.
Hey, Don, why'd you rob Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali like Barack Obama robbed us?
Because I love them. I love them, and I thought it was just so nice that they would give me an opportunity for me to make them rich so that I could rob them, because they were poor when they came to me and there wasn't nothing to rob.
Number 19. John Wayne. What did the Duke say that shocked the world? John Wayne, star of westerns such as The Searchers and Fort Apache, spoke his mind in his 1971 interview with Playboy magazine. But with his bluntness came criticism for his comments on race and his support for the Vietnam War, especially since he never served a day as an enlisted man in World War II.
But what about the civil rights? I mean, it's necessary.
What about the civil rights?
Well, we have 20 million blacks on this continent.
Right.
It was necessary to extend rights to them that...
True, I think they do have a right to more rights, but it isn't a thing where the rest of the country should feel terribly guilty about anything, because they have had a better life here and their fathers and mothers than they would have had any place else.
Number 18. Dean Martin. How did the King of Cool's life take a dark turn? A member of Hollywood's Rat Pack, the suave and sophisticated Martin was born Dino Paul Crocetti in 1917. Martin met Jerry Lewis in 1946. That pairing led to 16 feature films, plus popular radio and television programs. They split in 1956, and Martin went on to headline Las Vegas, host his own TV show, and star in numerous movies. He died of acute respiratory failure stemming from lung cancer at age 78 in 1995.
Lonely now, I'll see it through somehow.
Number 17, Steve McQueen. What ultimately led to the death of the King of Cool? The blue-collar man-of-action star of films such as Bullitt, The Great Escape, and The Magnificent Seven, McQueen starred on television in Wanted Dead or Alive. McQueen, a 2-pack-a-day smoker, got mesothelioma in 1980. He died during surgery to remove a tumor on his right lung. He was 50. Number 16, Wallace Beery. What dark secret did this 1930s icon harbor? 1930s Hollywood icon Wallace Beery ranks perhaps among the worst of the film industry, and not just because he might have been involved in the death of Ted Healy. His behavior toward his first wife, Gloria Swanson, was nothing short of sociopathic. Despite believing the marriage to have been a mistake, Swanson concluded Beery would treat her better if they had children. When she became pregnant, Beery got her some pills, ostensibly to help her with morning sickness. Instead, Beery had given her abortion drugs, and Swanson filed for divorce in 1917.
You picked that up.
Pick it up yourself.
You picked that up.
Number 15, Rosco Fatty Arbuckle. How did a comedy star become embroiled in a scandalous trial? Tragedy struck on Labor Day on September 5, 1921, with the arrest and trial of Rosco Arbuckle on manslaughter charges. Rosco, with friends Lowell Sherman and Fred Fishback, drove to San Francisco, where they checked into the St. Francis Hotel through a lavish party complete with drinking, drugs, and carousing, which was crashed by a starlet named Virginia Rapp, who fell seriously ill and died 3 days later from a ruptured bladder. Rapp had accused Arbuckle of raping her prior to passing away, but Rapp had a history of accusing men of rape. Rosco was tried not once but 3 times for the criminal charges. The trials began in November 1921 and lasted until April 1922. The first 2 ended with hung juries. The mistrial decision in the second trial was reached on February 3, 1922. At his third and final trial in April of 1922, the jury not only returned a not guilty verdict, but excoriated the prosecution for pursuing a flimsy case with no evidence of Arbuckle having committed any crime. It was at this final trial that the jury went further, writing a personal letter of sympathy and apology to Arbuckle for putting him through this ordeal. Number 14, O.J. Simpson. How did a beloved athlete become a criminal? While former football running back O.J. Simpson was acquitted for the murder of his ex-wife Nicole Brown, he would eventually be arrested in 2007 when he broke into a hotel room and took sports memorabilia at gunpoint. He was charged with criminal conspiracy, armed robbery, kidnapping, assault, and use of a deadly weapon, and was sentenced to jail for 33 years.
Superior Court of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA097211. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Nicole Brown Simpson, a human being, as charged in count 1 of the information.
Number 13, Lucille Ball. What did the Queen of Comedy do to earn a spot on this list? though she was best known during her life for playing characters who were funny and down to earth. It seems like Lucille Ball was just a wonderful performer and had all of us fooled. Her sense of humor and good nature appeared to end the moment the cameras stopped rolling. Ball was notoriously rude to anyone who didn't share her celebrity status. Once on an airplane, she completely ignored a flight attendant, instead having her assistant say, "I'm sorry, Ms. Ball doesn't speak to help." While she had many adoring fans, Richard Burton was not one of them. From his diaries that are soon to be published, he wrote about Lucille Ball. She is a monster of staggering charmlessness and monumental lack of humor. She is a tired old woman and lives entirely on that weekly show which she's been doing and successfully doing for 19 years. 19 solid years of double takes and pratfalls and desperate upstaging and cutting out other people's laughs if she can, nervously watching the ratings as she does so.
What needs explaining?
What's all this nonsense about you dancing with Van Johnson?
It's not nonsense. I did dance with Van Johnson.
Number 12, Steven Seagal. Love him, hate him, or just sort of put up with him, Steven Seagal was born to raise hell. Steven Seagal doesn't have a reputation for being a good man. In fact, he almost seems above the law, if you can believe any of the countless allegations of rape, sexual assault, and sex trafficking that have been leveled against him over the years. That includes one by Playboy model Jenny McCarthy, who said in an interview that Seagal told her to take off her dress during a private audition for Under Siege 2, despite the absence of nudity in the film. Then there was the incident in which John Leguizamo claims that Seagal elbowed him up against a wall with maximum conviction on the set of 1996's Executive Decision, all because Leguizamo laughed at something Seagal had said, thinking it was a joke.
Yeah, sure.
I know that you're a Zen master. What is the essence of Zen?
Number 11, Charlie Chaplin. What was the true nature of the man behind the tramp? The founding father of cinema and arguably the most famous man that ever lived, Charlie Chaplin is the single greatest star Hollywood has ever produced. Writing, directing, and starring in such classics as City Lights, The Kid, and The Great Dictator, the London native left behind more than enough evidence of his genius. However, there is also quite a bit of evidence to suggest Charlie Chaplin was a jerk in real life. Chaplin was a perfectionist and was known to turn hostile towards his actors and crew if they didn't give him the standard of work that he wanted. Those who worked with Chaplin recalled a string of unnecessary firings, incessant verbal abuse, and near daily tantrums. In his personal life, Chaplin was just as difficult. Having married several women before finally settling down with the daughter of playwright Eugene O'Neill, the tramp had no shortage of ex-wives who were willing to share their horrid experiences of living with him. According to pretty much every woman who married and divorced Chaplin, the man was emotionally abusive, controlling, and had few scruples about sleeping with other women.
He exerted a lot of control over everyone else on set. He would often only have a basic setup for a movie before filming, resulting in a lot of what was filmed to be improvised. This meant that Chaplin would often film the same scene many different times to capture different outcomes. These hundreds of takes were often grueling for the cast and presumably for the crew as well.
Number 10, Jerry Lewis. How did a comedy legend become estranged from his own family? Comedian Jerry Lewis was beloved for making Americans laugh, but his family life was no laughing matter. He was regularly unfaithful to his wife Patty Palmer, and reportedly cut ties with his sons after adopting a daughter with his second wife. He crowned the nasty relationship by disinheriting his sons, and he left no doubts that he meant it. His children were sad, but not surprised by their father's actions, given the way he had treated them before. Even in death, Lewis never reconciled with his children. 3 of them were banned from his funeral.
Bill Lewis, who died last month at age 91, left an estate worth an estimated $50 million. But his will contains this shocking clause: I have intentionally excluded Gary, Ronald, Anthony, Christopher, Scott, and Joseph and their descendants as beneficiaries of my estate, it being my intention that they receive no benefits.
Number 9, Morgan Freeman. What did Hollywood's beloved narrator do to earn a tarnished reputation? Morgan Freeman once held a reputation as a kind-hearted man, an upstanding member of society, and a role model for all. Not many actors can claim to be typecast as God and as the go-to default for narration, not to mention being one of the most distinctive voices in Hollywood. But after a long and storied career with a gentle and beloved reputation, Freeman was outed as a prolific predator. As reported by CNN,
an A-lister apologizing again over accusations of sexual harassment and misconduct. But actor Morgan Freeman wants to make it very clear he didn't assault women.
Freeman was accused by at least 8 women of sexual harassment and groping on film sets. Though the news became popular during the Me Too movement that began in 2017, his pattern of inappropriate behavior was well known by those in the industry for years beforehand. A crew member on 2013's Now You See Me revealed that the women on the shoot all knew to expect unwelcome sexual remarks and touching whenever he was on set, and had collectively decided to wear more conservative clothing in the hopes of combating his advances.
Now it's Morgan Freeman's turn to feel the wrath of the Me Too movement. 8 women are coming forward to accuse the 80-year-old Oscar winner of inappropriate behavior.
Right when I walked into the room, he began to make sexually suggestive comments to me.
One accuser is CNN entertainment reporter Chloe Melas, who says Freeman made shocking remarks to her when he was promoting his movie Going in Style with Alan Arkin and Michael Caine. Melas was 6 months pregnant at the time she interviewed the 3 stars last year.
Number 8, Chevy Chase. How did the king of comedy become the king of controversy? It hurts us to say that Chevy Chase is a nasty individual. He's not the lovable and hilarious goofball that he's tried to convince us he is. He has a reputation for being a complete jerk, and even his co-stars from SNL hate him as host because he acts rudely toward everyone. And his bad behavior and bad reputation didn't end when he left SNL. It's basically followed him throughout his entire career, which seems to be done for good these days. At one point, he made lewd remarks toward one of the female writers, which is pretty messed up. Respecting those who write your lines is apparently not on his top priority list. Chase also hates being polite to anyone, fans and co-workers alike. He was also let go from NBC's hit show Community after similar on-set issues cropped up with the aging comedian. It looks like he'll probably never change his ways at this point. Chevy Chase has something of a reputation as the meanest man in show business, a sentiment that's followed him all the way from his rock star beginnings on Saturday Night Live in the 70s up to his most recent recurring gig on NBC's hit show Community. In fact, Gawker put together a convenient timeline of Chevy Chase's worst moments, and some of the notes it hits are definitely cringeworthy. Highlights include getting into a fistfight with Bill Murray and suggesting that SNL co-star Terry Sweeney, who was openly gay, do a weekly segment where he would get weighed to see if he had contracted AIDS yet. It certainly seems like Chevy Chase has a penchant for rubbing people the wrong way. He even came clean about it in 2012 when he said, "Nobody prepares you for what happens when you get famous, and I didn't handle it well." That may be the understatement of the decade, but really, it doesn't matter because he's Chevy Chase, and you're not.
I remember a few times. But, well, we don't usually do this, but we're hungry. Yeah, me too. Can you grab something for me? There's going to be, like, a lot of plates to go by with things that you don't... Oh, that's shrimp. You don't know.
Number 7, Errol Flynn. What scandalous behavior did this Hollywood legend confess to? The 1940s old Hollywood actor, by his own admission, was a scoundrel, and he started young. He got involved with a wealthy married woman named Madge Parks while he was engaged to another woman. While he knew what he was doing was wrong, he explicitly said in his autobiography that he didn't care. Sex was irresistible. But he realized there was no future for him with Parks. Instead of exiting like a gentleman, however, he repaid her attentions by stealing a bunch of her jewelry after a romp and making out like a bandit for Europe. Number 6, Walt Disney. Could the creator of Mickey Mouse really be this controversial? Any man capable of creating Mickey Mouse cannot possibly be capable of evil, right? As you really should have learned from the Dr. Seuss entry a few hundred words back, even the most delightful minds can harbor disturbing thoughts. Walt Disney, the mastermind behind the beloved children's entertainment juggernaut which bears his name, was not the model citizen the mainstream media likes to portray him as. While he was indeed a great creator, he was also a terribly bigoted man. Although he lived in an era that wasn't exactly known for its forward thinking, Disney still managed to earn a reputation as a sexist. Of females in animation, he once said, "Women do not do any of the creative work in connection with preparing the cartoons for the screen, as that task is performed entirely by young men." Walt Disney was also a known anti-Semite and was strongly opposed to what he believed to be an attempt by the Jews to take over the motion picture industry. In 1938, right before the beginning of World War II, Disney even hosted Nazi propagandist Leni Riefenstahl in his Hollywood studio.
Well, it came about when my daughters were very young, and Saturday was always Daddy's Day with the two daughters.
Number 5. Woody Allen. What disturbing allegations surround this famous filmmaker? Woody Allen enjoyed a long career in Hollywood despite sexual assault allegations. Allen's stepdaughter, Dylan Farrow, has claimed for years that Allen molested her when she was 7. Allen has denied these claims. Allen is also currently married to his ex-wife Mia Farrow's adopted daughter Soon-Yi Previn, whom he has known since she was a child. He also has a history of dating teenagers. Number 4. Charlie Sheen. How did one of TV's highest paid actors self-destruct so publicly? Sheen's egotistical and misogynistic ways have been well documented in various interviews. He's also known for destructive tendencies, drug addiction, bad-mouthing other celebrities, and mistreating his romantic partners. This includes former wife Denise Richards, who would eventually divorce him because of drug and abuse allegations. She also accused him of looking at gay porn, and while that in itself might not be jerk behavior, it did provide a fun, bizarre wrinkle in the public breakdown of their marriage. While filing a restraining order, his third wife wrote, "I am very concerned that Sheen is currently insane."
Sheen has admitted using hard drugs, being addicted to alcohol, and soliciting prostitutes.
Number 3. Roman Palansky. How did a celebrated director become a fugitive from justice? Famed Paris-born actor and director Roman Palansky makes the cut for drugging and raping 13-year-old Samantha Geimer and allegedly assaulting 16-year-old actress Charlotte Lewis. Palansky had invited Geimer to model for the French edition of Vogue in 1977. During the second shoot, he plied her with alcohol and quaaludes, then raped and sodomized her. Number 2. Spade Cooley. How did a Western swing star commit a horrific crime of passion? Violinist and cellist, singer, actor, composer, and songwriter, shame on you, conductor, arranger, and inventor who popularized Western swing music on film and recordings, in person, and on radio and television. According to reports, Spade was increasingly frustrated over the growing distance in his marriage, and he exploded in shock, horror, and violence at the moment his wife told him she had secretly been a part of a sex-love cult. At that moment, he lashed out blindly at her, rupturing her aorta, which caused her death. Number 1. Gerard Depardieu. What made one of France's greatest actors the most notorious? Gerard Depardieu is one of the most celebrated actors in the history of French cinema. With nearly 250 credits in his filmography over the course of 5 decades, Depardieu has played many iconic and acclaimed roles in films like The Last Metro and Cyrano de Bergerac. With such superstardom inflating his ego, Depardieu has been known to act as if the rules didn't apply to him. With a background of petty crime in his youth, Depardieu had plenty of brushes with the law after becoming a star as well. His legal scandals ran the gamut from physical assault and frequent fighting to white-collar crimes connected to his numerous businesses. Depardieu reportedly drinks as many as 14 bottles of wine every single day, beginning the moment he wakes up even while he's on film shoots. During the Me Too movement, Depardieu was accused of sexual assault by more than a dozen women, most of whom were actors or crew members who worked with him. As reported by the Associated Press, 13 accusers came out against Depardieu, while also suggesting that his total number of victims was surely much higher, as he had a reputation for frequently groping and fondling the extras on his film shoots. Depardieu has often been hailed as one of the greatest actors of his generation, but incredible performances aren't worth dealing with a drunk and belligerent actor on set and the risk of sexual assault.
13 women have accused French film star Gerard Depardieu of sexually inappropriate behavior.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more juicy Hollywood secrets. Check out our other videos for more shocking stories.